the pathways options as well. These slides are available on the Google Drive. Sorry, I started to say SharePoint, on the Google Docs site under training materials, if anyone would like to use them.
Lisa, question.
Yes.
And DJ, when you did TLI last week, when you put up these presentations, which are terrific, is there any way about putting comments in the beginning, like on the location where your people are looking for things, or having a section where you prioritize what you come up with, i.e. these two things, and say this is what has worked and what was well received, so it gives it a different category? Do you see what I'm saying? So that people know what's worked and tried and true and has been appreciated, and got good reports on. Is that an idea or not?
I'm not 100% sure I'm following.
Okay, so you have this presentation, and you talked about how well it was received and all the accolades that it has gotten for it, and DJ when she did the TLI. When you put it on Google Docs, can you put a header on the link and saying that these, in a shortened form of what I just said, these were well received, or these got #1 ratings, or whatever? You see what I'm saying?
Actually, Carolyn, I'm laughing just a little bit.
I heard you.
Because basically, the only things DJ and I have put on the site are slides that received high marks.
Oh, perfect. Well, that answers the question.
And that's not to say that this is the only way to present this information and that people have to use this. I just want to emphasize that, and we've said this in every one of these meetings. It's to give you an idea. You are absolutely welcome to use them. But if you have a different concept that you want to try, by all means, there's nothing that says you must use these. We're providing them as a convenience for you. And they are tried and true, and they have received high marks in our evaluations.
Terrific. Does anybody have any questions? It would be great if we can have more input. Somebody's got to have a question or two out there.
I have a thought. Not to be, this comes from a really sincere place. It's important, I think, for everyone that's doing the TLIs, especially officers and above, that they use the nomenclature properly. And by that I mean we have VP education, we don't have VP of education. That of in it just doesn't belong there. And all the documentation, there's no of. So it's important for us as leaders to use the right titles so that we're not continuing the confusion and the misnomenclature as people take on these officer roles.
Thank you for that, Linda.
It sounds like a little thing, but it does, now that I've seen it done 2 different ways, it really has, someone corrected me years and years ago, and I thought, wow, that's just such a little thing, but now I see when all the top people are using it, then it's easier to identify with that and not misspeak, and I don't know, it just comes off more professional, and that's what Toastmaster wants, to be more professional. So.
Well, and of course it depends on, any organization chooses how they express things. Different companies say VP of or VP comma
Correct.
education. So it's all
Correct.
distinctive. I wouldn't say one is correct or not correct. I would say that Toastmasters' perspective on this is VP education. Personally, if you hear me saying something different, it's because that feels very clunky to me, and it's not what I'm accustomed to in the business world where I work. So forgive me for misspeaking for Toastmasters. My current title doesn't include VP of anything or VP anything. It's simply, I'm my club secretary and treasurer right now, which simplifies things. And I was president last year, also not needing to worry about VPs.
Right.
Other comments, questions, suggestions about this presentation?
Lisa?
Yes.
Hi, it's Angela.
Hi there.
Hi. One of the things that I found this presentation to make the DCP program less overwhelming. For me, when we had it spread out and people standing up, it was the first time that I actually said, oh, it's not nearly as scary or as intimidating as I originally thought, and it's doable. So I really liked the way you broke it down during that TLI. And I think it was the first time a lot of folks, especially new officers, were able to say, oh, that's what that DCP is all about. And actually made it real. So I greatly appreciate it. And I do think it's well worth having it at the forefront of everyone's mind as we present and put these TLIs together.
Thanks for that, Angela. And actually, you reminded me of one point that I think DJ and I, in talking about this before this evening's meeting, in January, you now have a group of officers who have been in their roles for 6 months or so. They're more experienced. And you still have 6 months of the Toastmasters year during which you can work on achieving these goals. That's why we both feel very strongly that whether the presumed or proposed agenda included DCP or not, I know in our TLIs, we are absolutely including DCP. For many of the reasons Angela mentioned, I know for myself, putting these slides together helped me finally come to some understanding about certain aspects of the DCP, especially the membership. That whole concept of why some clubs were awarded the goals and others weren't, and what the base and the current and the additional members, all of that used to just fry my brain, to be perfectly honest. And it seemed completely unfair when you have a club that succeeded in achieving 8 of the 10 goals, but because they didn't meet the membership goal, counts for nothing. From an area director perspective, which was my role last year, I did say that I felt that was one thing that needed to be addressed within Toastmasters, because if you think about it, and DJ and I have had a lot of conversations on this, where we're all located, we have a lot of smaller clubs that are in smaller communities. We're not in New York City. We're not in Boston or San Francisco. We're in smaller communities or smaller businesses. And I'm not always certain, and I'm still not certain, that that membership requirement, the magic 20, or adding 4 and adding 4 more, or adding 5, according to the DCP. I'm going to scroll back to that. They had a net growth of 5 new members. I don't know that that's necessarily realistic when you look at smaller community clubs. They can be doing everything right. They can be vibrant, active, growing clubs with members who are participating. But I live on an island that at this time of year has something like 4,000 people in the town of Bar Harbor. Membership can be a challenge. Other comments or suggestions?
It's Sharon Allen here. If I may, one of the things that I'd like to suggest would be to perhaps break your information down onto more slides. There's one of the kind of PowerPoint gets used a lot, and I love it. It's a great tool. But if there's too much on one page, sometimes it makes it almost overwhelming in itself. So I would just suggest having no more than 3 to 5 points on each slide.
That's actually a suggestion that we've heard a number of times in other settings. I have one of the members of MDI Toastmasters, Bob Bechtold, is an absolute, how shall I put it? He's very firm about PowerPoint slides and prefers to not use them whenever possible. I look at it from two different perspectives, though. Part of this is my own profession, where I am, and the use of PowerPoint. In a case like this, where we're going to give these slides to people afterwards as references, it's very helpful to have the information on the slides. You're absolutely free to take out and bring this down to where you just have a bullet that says membership base and a bullet that says example, and you talk through it. But
No,
somewhere you're going to need to give people some more information so that they have a reference.
I'm not suggesting that you take out information. I am just suggesting that on some of the slides, like there's 6 or 7 bullets. Put that onto 2 slides instead of having it all on one. That's what I am suggesting. All right, like this one here, 6. And my background's in instructional design. All right, so, and that's one of the PowerPoint. It's one of the very strong suggestions that you not have any more than 3 to 5 points on each slide. And if you have a lot of words all on one slide, it gets overwhelming for your audience. That's just my suggestion. So in this case, this one for education, I'd put points 1, 2, and 3 on a slide and 4, 5, and 6 on the next one.
Sure, and you can certainly do that. The other thing you can do that I don't think it shows on this in this view because of how this go-to-meeting thing works, but I freely use animation in PowerPoint slides so that you're not hitting people with all of this information. You're hitting them with one piece at a time.
Yes.
In actually presenting this, the way this slide is done in a slideshow, it would come up with just education legacy awards and nothing else on it. When you hit advance, you would get 0.1. You hit advance again, you get 0.2, and so on, which builds the information, and you've got the people coming up in the room that are reinforcing what's on the slides. There are many ways to do it, but you can certainly break it into more than one slide.
Okay.
Whatever you're most comfortable with.
Okay.
Lisa Madhu said, Madhu said, "Hi, I agree. Membership is a big challenge. It is unfair that club that has achieved 8 points does not become distinguished." Would you like to address that?
That was actually my comment.
Oh,
and
sorry.
It's okay. It's one of those things where, sorry, close your eyes, everybody. I'm scrolling here. This was the example that was given. And quite honestly, this is the rule, and I'm doing rules with air quotes, for Toastmasters, but I honestly don't believe it's a fair rule. I know DJ and I have both raised this when we were both area directors. We raised it as something to ask that at the higher levels, the directors and the divisions and whatever, that they consider discussing this. Because they aren't taking into account that every Toastmasters club does not exist in a very high population area. It becomes quite a challenge. And should a club, such as this example, who did achieve 8 of 10 goals, not get any recognition whatsoever? But that's my personal opinion about this. I'm not representing Toastmasters now. I'm just sharing. This is how I feel about this rule.
Which leads into a bit what John Blumson was saying, membership growth, i.e. net 5 or 4 and 4, more or 20 members can become a preoccupation that can distract from focusing on the main point, that is making sure present members are advancing, hang on a minute, and members are retained.
What an excellent point. That's an excellent point. And so often that is what happens. Clubs become so wrapped up in trying to add members that they lose track of how to keep the members that they already have, how to make sure we're meeting the needs of the members who are already there.
John makes another comment. As Manu suggests, a high-achieving club can be discouraged by the membership requirements.
John, is that because you think it's kind of the why bother? Why should we bother to try to achieve these if everything hinges on membership?
Not answering.
Well, it's been a pet peeve of mine for as long as I've been in Toastmasters, which is 9 years now. I started in a corporate club, and we did not struggle with membership because I worked in a large corporation. We had 5 different Toastmasters clubs just at the site I worked at in Groton, Connecticut. But coming to a community club in 2014 taught me a whole new understanding of what this membership requirement can do to a club and can do just to the enthusiasm and a club's ability to meet the needs of their own members while still trying to achieve goals. And maybe, John, the way to look at this DCP is, as I said in the very beginning, it starts out, it's a recognition program, but when you break it down, it's really about meeting the needs of our members and making sure that we're helping them with their goals. We're helping them achieve the things that they're trying to achieve for themselves. And if a sidebar from that is that as a club, we do well on these goals and we gain recognition for that, that's fine. But it's really all about meeting the needs of our members. DJ, do you want to jump in here with anything?
I agree with what you say. You kind of have to have the attitude of it is what it is and work with everybody to achieve what they need to achieve. And if everybody works together as a club, as opposed to, say, somebody says, well, that's not my job. I'm not the VP membership or any other officer role. If everybody works as a team, then I think and we found this with Dirigo, that it's not easy, but it's easier to come up with the requirements that you need in order to get the goals that you're trying to aim for. Anybody else have any comment?
I realized.
This is Casey.
Sorry, go ahead.
One of the other things and one of the other problems I've seen with the 20 members is that often a club will get people from other clubs to join to do dual, and they'll only do it for the 6 months, which means you're right back into trouble in the next 6 months. It just seems like, I agree with you. I didn't understand why that there's so much emphasis on that 20 members. I was president of a club that we had 10. We had everything and only 19 members. And it was painful, very painful. So, if you come up with some way of convincing Toastmasters, I would love it.
Yeah, thank you for that, Casey. And I think what's finally helped me put this aside a bit is to look at it that we need to meet the needs of our current members and ensure that we're keeping them happy and engaged and satisfied. And what happens when you've got a club full of members who are happy, engaged, and satisfied, they tend to talk about it and they tend to bring people in. Often membership will take care of itself. We do have a couple of drives during the year. I know one of our local businesses, the Jackson Laboratory here in Bar Harbor, they do some employee, I don't know what they call it, but they have groups from many different areas like insurance companies and the local banks and whatever come in, and they have like tables and information tables. We always participate in that. And when we get signups from employees, we do an immediate follow-up email letting them know how much we enjoyed speaking with them and that here's our meeting schedule and we look forward to engaging them. We usually get at least a couple of members, new members, from things like that. But it's definitely a challenge.
Lisa, Natalie would like to say, I agree with that as well. The required 20 or growth of 5 members seem to veer us in a direction where our focus is more on growth, hang on a minute, than the retention of members. Our members work so hard on their goals. I am going to contact TMI to see if this will change in the future.
That can only help from my perspective. I think if more of us start asking that question or ask our division leaders to ask that question, it's a reasonable question. I understand that a club is more effective when you have more members. And if you think about a club that has 20 members, not all of those members will come to every meeting. When you start looking at meeting attendance, it's wonderful if you can get 10 or 15 people attending a meeting if you have a club membership of 20. Much less than that, you have trouble filling roles and people are wearing multiple hats during a meeting. It's less satisfying sometimes. But I agree, we need to ensure that the current members we have are being heard and that their needs are being met and that we're making decisions that support longevity of membership in addition to new members. Other comments? These are good. These have all been great comments, everyone.
Lisa, it's Carolyn. I have a comment. It's not really the place for it, but I'm going to throw my hat in the ring anyway. I have a bee in my bonnet about, and I'll throw this out there to everybody, and I would appreciate your comments because everybody's been in Toastmasters a lot longer than I have and has a lot more wisdom and knowledge. I love Toastmasters. I'm very passionate about Toastmasters. I think we're walking the walk, but we're not. We're talking the talk, but not walking the walk. What I mean is we need to embrace the possibilities of expanding Toastmasters. If you look at the assessment careers, where you have all the different positions of president right down through, and how all those jobs in the outside world, the skills that they learn in the executive are available to all Toastmasters, but are honed at that level, that we need to be doing more for the general public, and I think we will get more members because of it, but I could be wrong, that we put on get in our curriculum, if we do a speech, or let's say we talk about helping people with job interviews and building confidence and communication. That's great. Why don't we have, instead of a speech, but in that time frame, a pretend interview, and then critique the interview? Like, let's make it work for us and the community. Thoughts? Anybody?
Right, Sharon. Yeah. No, I think that's an excellent idea. Where our club is, my home club is at, we meet at Mount Allison University. And we are trying to attract university students with the idea of, you need to do presentations in class. This is a place where you can come and practice those and refine them and make them better before you actually have to make the presentation in front of your professor. So anytime we can take what's within the Toastmaster program and actually see where it's applied in the real world, that adds value.
Absolutely.
And that's what we need to, if I dare use the word sell, the program to people to attract new members. How is it going to benefit me in my everyday life? So the idea of actually doing, having someone go through a job interview in front of the group and then getting some critique on it, great idea. There's all sorts of other things that we could utilize there as well. But anyway, I'll stop talking.
No, those are great suggestions.
In the legacy program, there was a book where you did do that, because I stepped in for someone and did the interviewing part, and she was practicing for an upcoming interview, and she was getting credit in one of the workbooks from the legacy program. So that was part of it. Now I find we have to kind of manipulate it into some of these pathways.
That's true. I know the advanced communicator had a number of things. We have a member who actually gets interviewed on television fairly regularly, and she utilized one of the advanced books on using videotaping to help prepare her for presentations in front of large stockholder type organizations, and also for preparing videos that were posted on different sites. And the ability to receive feedback from her peers in Toastmasters really helped her come up with some final presentations that were wonderful, really wonderful.
Angela said, speaking on video advanced manual is the name of the manual. I believe you're speaking of that. Okay.
Thank you, Angela. I didn't do that one, so I couldn't remember the name of it. I just knew there was one for it. The other thing you can do with some of these ideas, if you choose to hold a demo meeting that is part of your informational, who is Toastmasters, what do we do, and do a demo meeting, you could do something like that in the demo meeting to illustrate to people just how useful Toastmasters can be for day-to-day things.
I've been part of Lunch and Learn at different companies several times, and it's been great because people bring their lunch, and then we explain the Toastmaster meeting, the different parts of it. There'll be one or two speeches, and evaluation. So all parts of the meeting are covered. And then the last thing we do is invite them up for the impromptu. You know, if anyone would like to try to answer a question impromptu, there's no right or wrong answer. And it's worked out very well.
Sounds great. So
These are good ideas.
Thanks, everybody. We have 8 minutes left. Any other comments or questions?
Some of those examples that were given, usually with the TLIs, you have 1 or 2 electives that you can do. That's a time to do anything that you want. So it might be a good time to implement some of the examples that have been given.
Sounds great. It's Carolyn again. It just came to mind as part of my elevator speech. Something came to mind recently, and I started implementing it, particularly when you're speaking with people in the business world. What I'm talking about is management. They're saying, why should we? I give them an example that you've had a supervisor just promoted to management, and they have been told that they're going to be doing PowerPoints and lectures, and they need to get some education. So they get sent away in a 4-day course, but they have to learn the new job all at the same time. So they come back from that, they throw the books and the credenza, and it's forgotten about. Boss walks in 2 weeks later and says, by the way, you're going to be giving a PowerPoint presentation on a new system we're doing next week. And the boss leaves the room, and the guy goes, oh my God, where did I put the books? And then I said, but if you were coming to Toastmasters, you could take that presentation, use it, get the feedback, and then you'll know what to adjust and what not to adjust. And I opened a few people's eyes mentioning that. So, any comments?
I think it's a great idea.
Certainly within the business world, one of the examples I gave when I was manning the table at Jackson Labs recently for some of the employees who didn't have a clue what Toastmasters was, I'd ask them, how many times have you sat in a meeting and listened to a colleague blather on and on and on and never get to the point? And the light bulbs all go on. And they say, what's that got to do with Toastmasters? Toastmasters will help you learn to have an opening, your content, and a closing, and say it in a reasonable amount of time. How often would you love to have been able to flip the switch on someone in one of those meetings? Text message. In any case, yes, I think that's a great suggestion. We can use all of these ideas.
Any other questions or comments? Lisa and DJ, any final comments?
I would just say take these slides and use them as an example. As Lisa alluded to earlier, you can certainly change them and do whatever you'd like to do. But we just have the information up there as a guide for you. It's what's worked for us, and it'd be great if you used it and it worked for you, and you let us know how your TLIs went.
Yep, I don't have anything further to add. But we love the engagement and the interaction on these calls. Thank you all for your comments and for speaking up and for sharing. That's how we all actually prosper from these meetings.
Sounds wonderful. So what's the topic next week, ladies?
DJ, we haven't talked about electives formally. Maybe we should devote some time to the electives.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
And one other thing I'd like us to cover, not next week, but maybe in the following one, which should be our last one, right, Carolyn?
Yes.
Is how to prepare using the agenda template. You can use that to prepare an evaluation template.
Okay.
I'll put up on the board one that we used in January, so you get an idea of what I'm talking about.
Okay.
But if you use both templates, it will be easy. But next week we'll talk about electives.
Sounds great. Well, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us and thank DJ and Lisa for all her wonderful slides and presentation, and we'll look forward to seeing everyone next week. Have a great week. Stay safe. Good night.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.